Darlie Routier, the mom who was convicted of murdering her 2 sons. What's the most precious relationship in the world? A relationship whose foundation is laid in purity and unconditional love. Well, I'm sure all of you have thought about your mothers, because there is no other relationship as pure and genuine as that of a mother. A mother is not just a birth giver, but she's also the one whose sacrifices are enormous and her love seeks no boundaries. What if the conventional notion of love and sacrifice associated with a mother is proven wrong just by the acts of one mother? What if the beautiful relationship between a mother and a child is bloated with the darkness of selfishness or personal interest? What if this world raises serious accusations on a mother and she denies that throughout her life? Who will you believe? Today's case deals with the life story of one such mother whose world of perfection was destroyed with the blink of an eye. Welcome to AF Crime, the channel that brings you fascinating crimes all around the world. If you're interested in this kind of content, this channel is for you. Make sure to like this video, click on the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to keep you updated on our recent uploads. Now, let's get right into the video and investigate more about the case of Darlie Routier, a young mother whose case divided the opinions of the public. Darlie Routier was a young homemaker who belonged to Lubbock. She was known for her breathtaking beauty back in Monterey High School, Lubbock. Her looks were enough to attract multiple people towards her in her high school days. In her teenage years, she was known as a famous cheerleader of her high school who was known to be the heartbeat of many hearts. Right in her high school, she was adored by many, but eventually she fell in love with an equally good-looking Darin Routier. It was love at first sight, and right after graduating from high school in 1988, the couple married when both of them were just 18 in 1989. For a lot of people, this relationship seemed bizarre since they were very young, but Darin knew how to begin a life with Darlie, so he initiated a business of testing circuit boards, which became a sensation over time. Say it a game of fate or a good move from Darin's end, that this young couple soon started strengthening its roots in the neighborhood of Rowlett. As both of them were young by the time they had created a fortune of their own, so the art of spending it rightly was unknown to both of them, as the couple turned out to be one of the most extravagant couples of the neighborhood, spending almost $500,000 in a year. Darlie had an intrinsic habit of seeming to be the absolute perfect. She wanted to be the center of attention at every party, so right after settling in their luxurious place in Rowlett, the first thing she went was for breast implants to look attractive. It didn't end here for Darlie, for she engaged in various other surgeries of face, lips, and nose throughout the period of 3 years. The couple owned the most expensive Jaguar of the time and believed in an epicurean style of life. So right when Darin got free on vacations, the couple took trips to far-off islands and engaged in cruise parties to enjoy this newly found taste of the elite life. Darlie was very happy to live her life the way she had always wanted. She was completely free to enjoy her life, and there was no barrier from Darin, which made it further amazing. Right when she started basking in the sunshine of her youth, she found that she was expecting their first son. Though it was a hard pill to swallow for the freedom-loving Darlie, she accepted this new role, and the couple welcomed their first son, Devon, in 1990. Right after a year, she once again became pregnant with their second son and gave birth to Damon in 1991. It seemed that life was getting burdensome with time, as now Darlie had to look after 2 of her young sons, which was becoming increasingly hard for her alone. She wanted an escape, and as per the accounts of some close friends, she started battling through anxiety and depression for the first ever time in her life. Those were the times when the couple used to fight a lot, and it always ended on a bad note. But slowly, Darlie realized that creating a ruckus over little things was not going to solve the problems. By the time the couple welcomed their third and the youngest son, Drake. As responsibilities were increasing at a faster pace, the couple was now realizing their grave mistake, which they had done by squandering much of their wealth. The primary reason behind this realization was grounded in the fact that now Darin's company was going through severe losses. They had to pay a tax of $100,000 to the authorities, and the mortgage was also due. Amidst all this, caring for 3 children was getting extremely difficult, and above all, Darlie was not willing to let go of the luxurious life she was addicted to. Plus, her depression intensified to an extent that she started thinking that she was not a good mother to take care of her 3 children. Some of that negativity was the consequence of the postpartum depression, which combined with the financial strife. Darlie had a habit of writing her feelings in her personal journal. In the entry of May 3rd, 1996, she wrote a strange request of forgiveness for her 3 children. In this entry, she told her 3 sons that she loved them so much and she hoped that they would forgive her for what she was going to do. At that time, anyone couldn't have guessed what was running in her mind, which was eating her badly, but it was certain that she was fighting with the suicidal thoughts. However, the rest of the month passed silently, and on June 6, 1996, Rowlett witnessed the most horrible incident which had ever happened in the neighborhood. During the early morning hours of that day, the 911 dispatcher intercepted a call from a lady who was badly crying and shouting at the phone line. She seemed out of her mind, and she was telling the dispatcher that someone had stabbed 2 of her babies and herself, and now the attacker was on a run. From the expression of the woman over the phone, the dispatcher understood that things were grave. A cop team urgently arrived at the site from where they had received the call. This house was none other than Darlie's house, and she was the one who had called the dispatcher. She seemed badly shaken when the police arrived. They found the 5-year-old Damon and the 6-year-old Devon lying there in a pool of blood. There were splatters of blood everywhere, and the living room glass panel was broken down, which hinted that some intruder might have tried to enter the house and had sliced the 2 babies ruthlessly. Damon was pronounced dead right there, and by the time the medical treatment started on Devon, he also died. Darlie seemed shattered. She gave her initial statements to the police. According to her, she was watching a movie with her 2 sons right there when she slept, while her husband and youngest baby Drake slept upstairs in the master bedroom. She said that she was awakened by the push of Devon. Right when she opened her eyes, she found a 6-foot-tall white guy who was trying to go to the utility room, and a knife was resting on the floor. Shaking the remnants of sleep, initially she took the knife in her hand and placed it on the kitchen counter, and that was when she realized that there was a lot of blood on the knife. She became afraid and she tried to run after the guy. The guy attacked her and she was brutally wounded. After that, the guy ran away through the window pane that was broken. Her initial statements were verified on the account of her deadly neck wound, which was dangerously near to her carotid artery, which meant that if the attacker had attacked her with a bit of more force than he had, then she would have died instantly. She was taken to the hospital while the police collected evidence at the site of the murder. They found bloody fingerprints and a sock immersed with blood 3 yards away from the site of the murder, which was practically out of the Routiers' family house. It was strange that there was an attacker in the house who didn't take anything along with him but a sock only, and even that was left on the way. It was later revealed that the sock belonged to Darlie's husband and the blood on it was of their sons. Cops sent an alert to the adjacent neighborhoods according to the description given by Darlie, but nothing was found. It was another strange fact that not even the slightest trace of the murderer was found in the area. However, the police started taking statements of the secondary witnesses, which in that case was Darin Routier and some neighbors. Darin said that he was sleeping when he woke up suddenly while finding Darlie shouting like a maniac and calling his name. When he came downstairs, he saw what had happened, and this shattered him. The police acquitted him after a brief investigation because her statement verified the observations made by the cops. By that time, everyone was sending their condolences to Darlie, who was the prime witness and yet unable to help her babies. People all across the neighborhood started coming to see this grieving mother, and a week after the murder, Devon's birthday arrived. People gathered over there to sympathize and support the grieving parents, along with the media presence. However, they were shocked to see that Darlie seemed comfortable and was laughing freely. She even sang for the deceased while chewing bubble gum while throwing confetti over the grave in the cemetery. I know most of you will find this very disturbing because it's practically impossible for a grieving parent to enjoy their absence the way Darlie was. The channel ran this footage again and again. This not only raised pangs of shock and anger among the general public, but also raised suspicions among the police. The state prosecutor, Greg Davis, later told the ABC News that he was disgusted by the way she was reacting at the birthday of her deceased son, because he believes that no parent can react normally after what she had seen that night. However, this was not what led to Darlie's arrest, but there were the gruesome details obtained from the forensics, which raised the suspicions. Firstly, they found that in addition to the murder weapon, there was another knife found in the kitchen sink, which was washed in a haste, but had some microfibers left on it. It was revealed that these microfibers were of the same glass that was broken in a T-shaped pattern to Darlie's statement was used by the murderer to break into the house. This hinted that someone from within the house might have cut the glass this way to divert the police and investigations. Besides, they found that the blood spatters indicated that the attacker was not running away as Darlie had told police. They simply came from staying in a single place. Another revelation was then made right from the injuries of Darlie. It was believed that these were self-inflicted since they weren't as brutal as the wounds on the body of Devon and Damon, when in fact, the attacker would have attacked Darlie with the same ferocity. They further found that there were no unification in Darlie's statements. She was changing bits and pieces of her story every time she was retelling it, which hinted that she was actually lying. On June 18th, she was arrested by the police on the charges of capital murder of her two sons, and her trial began on January 6, 1997. The prosecution held the belief that the potential reason behind these killings was the insurance policy which the parents had bought for their children and whose value was $10,000. The prosecutor further suggested that Darlie was going through a dark phase of depression, as evident from her encounters with her family members and friends from a long time due to the financial crisis. So she might have thought about killing her children to end this responsibility and pain all at once. However, the defense entirely negated this accusation made by the prosecution. They reasoned that if money was the possible motive, then why had she left her husband alive on whose name was an insurance policy of $80,000 and which could have easily covered their billings and mortgages? Besides, the injuries on her body were also included in the conversation, and defense put forward that if she had killed her children, she wouldn't have hurt herself so badly, but that objection was overruled on the account of Darlie being